Hello and welcome to my channel. My name's Charles Delastic and this channel is Developing Extraordinary. It's all about how to develop an extraordinary mind, an extraordinary business and extraordinary wealth. So today's video is about how to train your brain to make difficult things easy. Now, obviously, if you want success in life and you want to achieve one of the three or all three of the aforementioned things, then you're going to have to do some relatively difficult things because that's what gives people success. So how do you train your brain in order to do those difficult things and make life a little bit easier for yourself on that front? That's what this video is about. If you enjoyed the video, please show your appreciation and give us a like at the end. If you didn't, don't. But thanks for listening and cue the intro. Okay, so let's get started straight in. How to train or trick your brain to make difficult things easy. What's the point? Goals and goal setting. Anybody who is trying to make a success in their lives, by definition, has to achieve certain goals. Otherwise, they're just really not going to go anywhere. So what sort of goals are we talking about? So we're talking, health goals, skills goals, financial goals, any type of goals that you may have, and it's how you achieve those goals. But obviously, if you're trying to achieve a health goal, I don't know, train every morning, that's a difficult thing, right? Eat only good food, that's a difficult thing. Get 8 hours sleep, for some people not that difficult, for others, yeah. So your health is important. Building your skills. How good are you at public speaking? Do you speak more than one language? Those sorts of skills help one in life. Reading really quickly. Can you read 40 to 50 books a year? How do you develop that skill? Financial skills, making sure that you're making the best use of your money, and how do you build your wealth over time? So all those skills are about, all those things are about achieving your goals. And ultimately, achieving those goals leads to your success. If you don't achieve the goals, you don't achieve success. Probably as easy as that, but they are difficult to achieve. Why are they difficult to achieve? Okay, well, it depends on how your brain works. Some people are extraordinarily disciplined, but usually we're not born like that and we're not built like that. That takes time, energy, training to get to that level of discipline. So how do you do that? Okay, well, you've got effectively, most people call it 3 parts. For this video, let's just call it 2 parts: your animal brain and your human brain. And how do you control the two, and how do you control your animal brain? Well, basically, in his, let me pick that up, this excellent book by Jonathan Haidt, The Happiness Hypothesis, written about 2006, but a great book. He talks about the rider and the elephant. So the elephant is your animal brain, which has been developed over millions of years, and then your human prefrontal cortex. And he likens the prefrontal cortex, the rider, and your animal brain to the elephant. Now, obviously, if the elephant wants to do what the elephant wants to do, the elephant's going to do that. And it's very difficult for the rider to control it. But with training, the rider can control the elephant. That's the point. And how do you get there? So how you do it is that you trick your brain by building habits. So habits engage the rear brain and you do them habitually. So for instance, depends on your habits, but you get up in the morning and you brush your teeth and you have a shower and then you get dressed for work and then you have breakfast. those are habits. You don't have to think about it. That's what happens. When you come in, you pet the dog. I don't know. When you finish dinner, you might watch TV. So we all are driven by millions and thousands of habits that we don't even think about. They just happen. Yeah. And it's about engaging those habits. So how do you build habits? Well, I'm not going to get into that in this particular video. That is the subject of many videos, and how do you do that effectively is a key and an essence to your success, building the correct habits. But let's go into it a little bit more. So one of the things I would urge you to consider is potentially not just having goals, but trying to achieve outcomes. So when we look at the mind roadmap of on my website, you'll see a whole roadmap to developing yourself personally, and built into that is something called the Wheel of Life. So if you define an outcome, in other words, an outcome is how long do I want to live and what sort of health do I need to have if I want to be a kick-ass 100-year-old, which is the game that I play. What are the rules? What do I have to do to be a kick-ass 100-year-old? What needs to happen? Yeah, so it's a sport I play and it's an outcome, right? How do I win at that game? So between that, there may be all sorts of goals that one want to hit intermittently, but the ultimate outcome can be driven by good habits. So if I want to be a kick-ass 100-year-old, I have to eat really well, sleep really well, have low levels of stress, have great relationships, have great health, finances, everything sort of comes together. And how do you play that game? But really, it's an outcome as opposed to a goal. And you can have outcomes in all areas of the Wheel of Life, whether it be your relationships, whether it be your finances, whether it be your work. So look at what's the end result look like in a perfect world, and what do I need to do to get there? And that defines your goals. Okay, so goals and habits, if you can move habits beyond habits and you can move into rituals, then you're really starting to see some power. So habits are things that you do on a regular basis, but rituals are, like I just explained, you get out of bed, you go into the bathroom, you wash your face, you have a shower, you brush your teeth, you go into the other room, you get dressed, and then you have breakfast and a cup of coffee, or your morning ritual may be different to that. Depends what it is. But if you can build rituals which are a series of habits strung together and one automatically comes after another, that's when you really start to build in power. So that's rituals. Now, what gets in the way of building habits? Now, unfortunately, what drives the animal brain? Quite often, it's a hormone called dopamine. And well, you can't alter your hormones, so what do you do about that, right? Okay, well, it happens that you sort of can adjust your hormones, but what do you do about dopamine? Okay, so first of all, let's talk about what it is. So effectively, it's a neurotransmitter. So it's activated in the pleasure reward cycle of your mind. So you do something and you enjoy it, you get a little bit of dopamine. And if you enjoy it too much, you can get into addiction. So some people they're addicted. Me, for years, I was addicted to ice cream. Have I broken it entirely? Not sure, right? Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic, as they say, don't know. But there's an addiction potentially driven by dopamine. So it's the pleasure centers and the reward centers of your mind, and it's activated by certain activities. So there are things that are easy, right? And they generate high levels of dopamine. So for instance, watching TV shows, watching action films. Now, those are designed to generate dopamine. Video games, exactly the same. Eating food that's really tasty but bad for you, Haagen-Dazs ice cream, whatever, right? They activate dopamine and they activate high levels of dopamine. Therefore, it's pretty easy to eat rubbish food, watch lots of TV and play video games. You don't find it difficult at all. It's not hard. because it's easy, because dopamine is being activated all the time. But then you get low levels of dopamine. Low levels of dopamine occur when you're trying to hit goals, and achieving those goals require changes of habits and require changes of action, and it's hard. And therefore your animal brain says, yeah, don't want to do that, and you procrastinate and you can't change it because it's got low levels of dopamine. Okay, so what do you do about it? What are the solutions? So the first solution I would suggest is look at all of those activities that you do, that you know, those habits that are bad for you. You know, you finish dinner and you sit down and watch TV. You have wine every night at dinner. Well, maybe you enjoy it, ain't good for you in the long term. You drink too much, you don't get up early enough to exercise, all sorts of things. Look at those habits that you have, and for a week go on to a low dopamine detox situation where you're not watching TV, you're not playing video games, you're not doing all of those things, and it's not a question of doing something, you just stop, right? And you try and get somebody to hold you accountable, and you stop for a week, and you bring the whole level of dopamine in your blood system down because you're not activating it to that degree. So for instance, if you go on to let's say you eat a lot of sweet food and then you go on to a fast for 5 days. Well, the taste of a piece of fruit after 5 days, you've completely detoxed, and the whole thing tastes completely different, right? So it's the detox that helps you get there first of all. Then you look at the habits that you're trying to build in, and you work on those habits, bearing in mind the outcomes that you're trying to achieve. So habits, because they get built into your life on a daily basis, drive outcomes. So if you get up every morning and the first thing you do is you put your training gear on and you train for an hour, that's going to have a completely different impact upon the outcome in your life than not doing it, for instance. Okay, so it's building habits. And then, better still, you move those habits into rituals. So you add one habit to another, and the finish of one habit activates the next habit, because it's a series of habits that become the habit, if you see what I'm saying. So that's a ritual. So that's really important. And then last but not least, how do you trick your brain? Well, as you're building in the habits and the rituals, you give yourself little rewards for achieving things. I mean, really something as simple as planning your day and then ticking off the boxes. That ticking off the boxes activates a little bit of dopamine. If you get praise from somebody because you got up and trained, because you have an accountability coach, somebody gives you a little bit of pleasure because you did something well, right? It's trying to build in little bits of reward for the things that you find difficult to do. So you study French for half an hour, and then you have a small sweet because you've given yourself a reward, but you don't get one without the other. But better still, find a nice piece of fruit rather than a sweet, right? So it's about building these things and giving yourself rewards for achieving your habits and achieving your rituals. That way you're activating your dopamine system to achieve your goals, be the rider rather than the elephant, and achieve your outcomes. So putting habits together, making them into rituals, being held accountable, people praising you, anything that gives you and activates your reward and pleasure center because you did the thing that was difficult, is what trains your brain to make difficult things easy. Okay, hope you found that useful. If you found it useful, please reward me with a small like, because that will activate my dopamine. Thank you very much for listening, and goodbye for now. Thanks, bye.